And then go ahead, Lolly, then Priya.
Hey, Lolly.
Hey, so that was an amazing practice. Thank you. And
Oh,
the
good.
weekend was so good. Like the combining the classes
Yeah,
together
yeah.
and getting a different perspective and different experiences.
Kind of fun
So
too, yeah. It's like kind of fun
yes,
playing with.
yeah.
Yeah.
And these two, I think these two classes, I think since I took the chakra and the colors, I really wanted to actually see how they work together.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Um,
fun. We'll probably do that class again, maybe just as a one day at some point, maybe in a couple of
mhm,
months.
yeah,
But I really am digging the mashups.
yeah.
Because a lot of times these classes were one big class that I had to go, okay, I have to break this up in pieces. It's too much for a weekend. And
Mhm.
so I get to kind of revisit some of this stuff like in its like truer form, at least on my end.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
the
no,
chakras and the colors were always supposed to be going together, but it was just too much
and
for
yeah,
one weekend. Yeah.
and it's good to really break it down the first time and then really get the better
Yeah.
understanding
Because you
once you
you
have,
really get the
yeah.
piece. Like, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like sometimes when there's too much, it's like, and you kind of get little pieces of something, but
Yeah.
to really digest each piece, kind of get to know it and see what it does, and then put them together. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so thank you.
Good.
And then one of the things I was wondering about, you just kind of talked about, which is the blue flag, because it showed
Uh-huh.
up in the email, and I was like, okay, what is that? So thank you. Because I wasn't sure really if it was a
Oh, did we put it? Yeah, it
you
was in
put it
the thing for
um
arthritis. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And I looked at it and I didn't know if it was an herb or if it was a blend. So now I
Yeah,
understand.
no, it's an herb. It's
Yeah.
trying to remember, is that the one that's the iris?
That's it. Yeah, the
Yeah, it's
iris.
it's it's a type of iris.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And
Okay.
it's a very, very old school herb.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would say its heyday was probably like the late 1800s to like 1920 or 30.
Mm-hmm.
And then, pharmaceuticals kind of came in and, the herbs that were like hot and heavy back in the day, they just kind of faded away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started using this like back when I was going through before my knee surgery. So like, I was like 20, 21 or something. And I was fighting really chronic inflammation in the knee area. And I just couldn't find any relief. And I really didn't know about like the lymphatic system the way we talk about it now. But I found when I took that, I still needed to have surgeries, but it made life a lot more bearable. I didn't have the bone on bone issue, but I had a tendon and sheath that were just super inflamed, and like the knees were just always like the level of lymphatic stagnation was just off the charts. And so it made life like bearable. It made life way, way more bearable. And I'd say Samantha uses it like
Oh yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Before I started making the tincture, we'd buy these bottles of the herb where, I mean, I think there were 180 capsules. We'd buy like three or four of them at a time. And like within a few months, we were buying them again. Like,
Oh,
it's just like a kind of a staple that, like,
and
if you're doing lymphatic work, I always kind of follow it with blue flag. Yeah.
oh wow. Okay. So then, yeah, because even for myself, I've been working on different things, but here's what I'm wondering about. So
Hmm.
basically, you take it internally because obviously it's a tincture, so it has some
Hmm.
alcohol in it. Okay. Now, we also talk about, I mean, last week we even talked about the lymphatic, and you guys send the lymphatic blend, and then there's the
Hmm.
lymphatic bliss. And so what I'm wondering about is where did this one, I mean, the other ones we can do inhalations, and this one is
This
more,
this would be a little bit more like the lymphatic bliss. So the lymphatic bliss, the reason why I called it bliss is like it stimulates like higher cognitive functions because it's increasing circulation of the lymphatic system, and it's throwing off like any time that the lymphatic system is circulating properly or having more spontaneous movement, you're throwing off elementals or lower vibrational energy. The lymphatic blend is about detoxing a particular area and clearing lymph nodes, and there's a little bit of a circulatory component, but really when you start to get into the idea of the circulation can be a thing unto itself, because the thing with circulation, it's not just about um like stimulating the movement. You also have to like thin down the viscosity of the lymph itself. Like the lymph, like sometimes it's like trying to move molasses through the lymph vessels. And so even though the lymph vessels might be like good to go and like, okay, come on, I can circulate this. It's like trying to circulate motor oil versus, water.
Mhm.
It's it has a bit of a thinning effect on the viscosity of the lymph itself.
So basically, it's a good to take it as maintenance
It's good to take
in
it
a
as
way. Yeah.
maintenance, and I'd say like if you're, like talking about the like going back to the situation before where she has a hip, the joint relief is somewhat similar, but has a little bit more of stimulating blood movement and reducing spasms and things like that. And so that's like a little bit more specific for a joint, where the lymphatic blend is just detoxing wherever you put it. Like, so basically, like wherever something is like kind of dull, achiness, dull, achy pain, um, that is poor lymph. Like that area is
Mhm.
toxic. And so the lymphatic blend helps to detox the tissues and the lymph nodes in the area, jumpstart the lymph nodes, get all that stuff moving. And if the lymph isn't too thick, it will just start circulating. Excuse me. But if there's like a lot of detox or a lot of like inflammatory material that the body's processing, you still have to keep jump starting the movement of the lymph.
So basically, it'll be good for things that the body is either not detoxing well. So even if like the liver is not functioning great and needs some help.
I would say just about like any sort of soft tissue issue, like organs not functioning quite like they should, digestive issues. I mean, one of the big issues in the digestive tract is inflammation and
Mhm.
digestive toxicity in the gut. And so anytime that you have something going on, I would say the lymphatic system is one of the most easily compromised systems in the body. Yeah.
And then a few weeks ago, or a while ago, we also talked about cancer and like somebody who has like breast cancer and all the lymph
Sure.
nodes, on the area. So that would also be.
Yeah, like with like breast cancer or something like that, I would use it probably more after the removal of the
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
Boy, excuse me, sorry, but you got cold. But with like breast cancer, for example, I would treat that with yarrow for a while. Because you're dealing with inflammation and you're wanting to just kind of keep reducing the size. Anytime like most breast cancers are inflammatory in nature, so they'll puff up and they'll condense and they'll puff up and they'll condense. And you want to kind of keep it in a condensed state as much as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you do that first, and then at some point you can kind of make a transition. And
Yeah, I would treat it lymphatically after the fact.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
thank
Like
you.
if you wanted to augment the yarrow, um, you could use Sylvester pine, but like sometimes I like to use uh either thuja or arbor vitae to make the lymph nodes like more aggressive,
Mhm,
for like fighting off the cancer. And then I like to use either the Java turmeric internally
yeah,
and the shiso body tonic topically.
yeah,
Like those, and then if you're going to throw another thing in the mix, maitake mushrooms,
okay,
well, I say that maitake sometimes, and if it's like very inflammatory, chaga, the chaga mushroom.
okay, thank you. That just because you mentioned the lymph nodes, so okay.
Yeah.
And then okay, so then a few other things. Thank you. We talked last week or a couple of weeks ago about mold, potential mold in an area, and we talked about the fungal support. And you also mentioned that there's the mold support, and I'm wondering would you take internally if something is going on? And
You
I'm
could you
just
could do the mold support internally. I mean, you could do the fungal support internally too. The fungal support that's actually I'm duplicating something that was studied like back in the 60s. And it was one of
mhm,
the very first things that was scientifically evaluated, as far as, how efficient it was to treat like airborne molds or molds that are in like the air vents and things like that.
mhm,
And that blend was looked at and they found it to be like the most effective way to treat, you know,
mhm,
molds and funguses that are airborne. The mold
yeah,
support was made a little bit more for um, treating it in a person. But like,
mhm,
for example, like if you were dealing with candida or something like that, you could use tea tree, or you could
yeah,
use a fungal support internally, and that's how I would treat it. I mean, it's
mhm,
it's geranium pomarosa, um, and then it's savory and tea tree.
yeah,
And
mhm,
savory, like savory, cinnamon will do this too, but like savory and cinnamon will kind of treat the candida in the body like there's a new sheriff in town and only one
mhm,
of us can stay.
yeah,
Like they mean business. Where the other ones, they're effective, but they're not quite as aggressive and a bit more gentle.
mhm. And then and the mold support, what's in the mold support?
Oh, I'd have to look it up. You're gonna have to give me a minute on this one. I made this a
Mhm.
real long time ago.
Also, would you treat it even if you're not sure if there's mold and you just suspect
It's
maybe
good to
just
do from time to time. I
okay, just to
mean, you don't
clean
always
the
have to
system?
be, like you use something like cinnamon or savory. It's
Yeah.
boosting the immune system. It doesn't have to be just like I'm going after mold or I'm going
Oh
after
yeah.
a fungus.
Yeah, and
It's
I do
a good
cinnamon
way
often.
to, yeah, a good way to clean things up.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, give me a sec here.
Hmm.
I have about 6 or 7 different recipe books, so I have to. So mold support is heavy on the tea tree, but then it's ginger, marjoram, cedar, and lavender.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I actually did not even
Much gentler than the fungal support.
okay.
Just in the thing that makes the fungal support so like is the savory. Like
Yeah.
savory is, if you said, okay, I'm gonna take a handful of oils and they're gonna be the Marines that hit the beach,
Hmm.
cinnamon, savory, oregano, you know, clove,
Hmm.
the hardcore, like some of the really hot thymes.
Mm-hmm.
Those things, like anything infectious, virus, bacteria, fungal, mold,
Mm-hmm.
it just goes at those things.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So then you can kind of do either or internally, basically. Like
yeah,
you can do, okay.
I wouldn't do fungal support like super long term. Like,
Yeah, because
60 days is probably okay, but I'd probably stick more to 30. But if
mm-hmm.
you're really having a bad bout of like candida or something, I would still probably rotate it with like cinnamon or there's another blend that, when we talk about these things, we don't really talk about it very often, but it's also for like flus and things like this, but it would still be in the vein of um, candida and fungal issues and molds. And the blend, it's a very old blend. It's called Liberation, and
Oh yeah.
it's cinnamon, savory, clove, and some lemon. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
a really just basic, but I mean, it's like a bunch of big hitters, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so not meant to be taken for long periods of time. It's like, okay, I think I'm getting sick. Okay, I'm sick. I think I might have candida. I think, whatever's going on. Um, you know, there is a lot of antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal aspects to that blend. And psychologically, it has an impact on being able to step out of the box. Like, oh, I can take a punch. You know how, like, when you start to do
Mm-hmm.
something new, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
you don't know. This is just like, okay, here I am. What are we gonna do? Like, it's there's this saying in old school medical aromatherapy that cinnamon doesn't know depression. Like, it just doesn't know what it is. Like, because it's so it stimulates the body's processes, it makes you outgoing, it's just so invigorating that it's almost kind of hard to be. I mean, you still could be depressed, but it would be hard to
Mm-hmm.
do it, you
Yeah.
know. And so all of those oils kind of have that component to it, you know.
Okay. So then if you're not sure what is going on, like I have a lot of different things. So if it's skin, if it's body, if it's a bunch of different things, I still need to check actually for mold. I cleaned some things. I have the blend for, the fungal support, but I'm wondering if I
Yeah.
should maybe just
And
clean
so
the,
you could take that internally, but I would say if the concern is that it might be in the house, even if you don't want to do like diffusing the fungal support, just for like price and something, use like eucalyptus globulus, use tea tree, use something like that to where you can diffuse it all the time so you can break it down if it's in the vents or if it's in the walls or something like that while you're taking something internally so that you're cleaning this up, but you're not still bathing in the thing that caused the
I,
problem in the first place.
exactly. So
Yeah.
right now I'm diffusing it around and I still need to check. But then, so internally for me, what do you think would be from all of these blends and options? What do you think would be the best?
I kind of like the liberation for you. That's kind of why I mentioned it.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? It's how I said fungal support's like the tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
Fungal support would be a little bit afraid of liberation if they met in an alley. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
okay.
liberation would be like, come on, let's do this.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're gonna do it, you
Um,
might as well do it.
okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. And then it does have it has savory and clove and all those like that are very hot.
Has
Okay.
cinnamon,
Yeah.
savory,
Yeah.
clove, and then
And
lemon.
lemon.
Yeah.
Okay. So then taking it like a couple of drops once a day? Mm,
Yeah, 2 or 3 drops once a day. And if your system doesn't get too hot or can handle it, I'd even do it twice a day.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because and then again, not taking it for too long, right?
Yeah, I mean, usually with like, say, if you're dealing with an infectious condition like the flu or something like that, you would probably take it a week to 2 weeks.
Okay.
Something like this, 30 days, that's pretty good. But I wouldn't go taking it for like 3 months or 4 months. You could take a break, do it again, but if your body is being impacted like either by candida or an external mold or fungal issue, within 30 days, if you're not feeling better, it probably is not mold or candida.
Okay.
Like it's going to produce a result kind of fast.
Okay.
Like if it starts making you feel better, then something's up. It's
And
one
if
of those
it's
things where you start treating, and that's kind of almost like an evaluation or a diagnosis unto itself. And then
okay.
if you don't really respond, then something else is going on.
Okay. And then okay, so and then if I'm taking lemon by itself, it's fine. Like, or can I
Yeah, oh
like
no,
it's
you can
okay.
go
I mean,
crazy
it's
with lemon.
lemon. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
you can go
But
crazy with lemon.
okay, but then
Yeah.
if I'm
Lemon you
taking
could take for the
this,
rest of your life too, by the way.
yeah. But if I'm taking this blend, then there's no need for me to take like
No,
cinnamon on its own.
no.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
cinnamon I do take every now and then because there's something about it that just makes yeah.
There was a French doctor that said, this is many years ago, a couple decades ago, but he said, if the world knew the therapeutic properties of cinnamon, you wouldn't be able to get it because it's so amazing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it just does so many things, and it has such like a healing effect. It stimulates the body's processes, and it's antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. It stimulates the proper peristalsis movement in the gut, and you would use it for diarrhea or dysentery, and any sort of infectious condition, and it's good for circulation. It's like it's just good for so many reasons. I personally, I don't tend to use it a whole lot by itself just because my body always runs a little hot, and not as much as I used to, but it could go there real easy. So like when I use cinnamon, I use it for like a day or two, and then I take a break just because you know, like it was 6 degrees yesterday, and I walked outside to the car in just normal shirt, and I was fine. I couldn't stand out there forever, but like Samantha looked at me like I was a moron, and I was like, I'm cold. Like it's like my body's hot, you know.
So
So
yeah, I would need like 7 blankets and then I'll be fine.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So then okay, so thank you. I'll try that and see but then even if I'm sensitive for other things, I mean not really for heat, I'm still fine taking that blend and kind of
yeah,
experiment and see. Okay.
yeah.
And then thank you. And then the other thing I want